A folder. Not red this time. It was manila colored. It looked ordinary. But when Adam Schiff placed that folder on the table, Kash Patel's eyes were drawn to it. Just for a second. Then he turned to Schiff's face. That was enough of a second. Because in Washington, everyone who has worked in such chambers for years knows. When Schiff brings a document to a hearing, that document has not been randomly selected. That document is the final link in a trap set months in advance. And Patel, as soon as he saw that folder, realized something was wrong. His face gave it away. The cameras caught everything. Be the first to learn about moments like these. Subscribe now. To fully understand the situation, we need to go back a bit. Adam Schiff prepared for this hearing for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, documents were thoroughly examined and sources were heard. Every possible answer was anticipated. It was calculated how Patel would answer which question, where he would be taken for defense, and which institutional patterns he would use. Schiff is a former federal prosecutor. He has spent years in organized crime cases, and most importantly, he can very well distinguish when a witness is giving a prepared denial, when they truly don't know, and when they are trying to hide something they actually know. This morning, that distinction was extremely important. The first 3 hours of the hearing were standard: budget discussions, personnel decisions, operational priorities. Patel was ready for every question. Her answers were fluent. He never strayed from the corporate framework. Republican senators praised it, Democratic senators asked, and Patel breezed through every question for 3 hours. Then, Schiff took the floor. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room completely changed. It was difficult to describe this change. There was neither sound nor movement, just a feeling that experienced observers in Washington know very well. It was like the calm before the storm. Schiff placed his folder on the table. It was closed. It was visible but not yet opened. Patel took a quick glance at the folder. 1 second. Then he turned to Schiff. In that 1 second, in that glance, the cameras captured what was happening on his face. Was it recognition? Was it concern? It's hard to say exactly, but it was there. "Director Patel," Schiff said, his voice controlled and deliberately calm, "I would like to ask you a question regarding the management of intelligence files." Patel gave a standard response. FBI's data management protocols were implemented to the highest standards. Each process was conducted within established procedures. The institution's commitment to transparency was indisputable. Schiff shook his head. "I understand," he said. "Then I want to ask you something very specific." He opened the folder. The document inside was printed on FBI letterhead. The confidentiality markings were clearly visible. Schiff lifted the document. The room fell silent. The cameras zoomed in. This is, allegedly, a document taken from internal FBI communications. Its content is directly related to the data deletion process previously discussed in this committee. And this document contains information about the scope of that process that has not been disclosed to the public. He paused. "Director Patel, are you aware of this document?" "Director Patel, are you aware of this document?" Patel's facial expression suddenly changed. He quickly paled. The cameras recorded this change within 3 seconds. One of the lawyers leaned forward. Whispers and note exchanges began. Then Patel spoke. "Senator, I won't comment on a specific internal document without seeing the context. Let me explain the context of this document to you," Schiff said. Schiff started reading. He read each sentence slowly, clearly, and with deliberate weight. The document, allegedly, documented a process originating from the FBI's counterintelligence units that required high-level approval. There were dates in it. There were reference numbers. And most importantly, there was an institutional record that the process had been initiated. Schiff finished reading. He downloaded the document. "Director Patel," he said, "this document was prepared during the period after you assumed the directorship. The content directly overlaps with the topics you previously answered with, 'I don't know,' in this committee." He paused. "How do you explain this contradiction? How do you explain this contradiction?"
The room fell completely silent. This silence was not due to a procedural pause, but genuine astonishment. Republican members looked at each other. The journalists were writing, and Patel, at the head of the table, was looking at his lawyers. Patel answered, but this time, his answer was different. The fluent corporate language he had been using for 3 hours had given way to much more carefully chosen words. "Senator, the context of internal documents can be misleading when evaluated in isolation. Each document should be evaluated within its own operational context. Operational framework, Schiff said. Okay. He took out the second document. Director, I want to show you the timeline of the process this document is based on. He placed the document on the table. According to the claim, this process was initiated within a specific time frame and a certain approval mechanism was implemented. Moreover, authorization at the directorate level was required to operate that mechanism. Schiff looked at Patel. Was this authorization given by you? Patel gave a careful answer. Director-level authorizations can encompass multiple units and processes. It may not always be possible for me to be personally aware of every individual decision. You may not be aware, Schiff said, but this document shows that the directorship approval is clearly documented. But this document clearly shows that the director's approval is documented. Follow where this process is going. Don't forget to subscribe. Schiff moved on to the third document. This time, he paused for a moment before lifting the document. That pause created a different weight in the room. Director Patel, I would like to ask you a question about the final outcome of this process. He lifted the document. This contains the corporate record indicating that the process has been completed, and the record contains quite specific information about the scope of the process. He read it. Slow, clear, each word with a distinct weight. And as the reading continued, the cameras were locked onto Patel's face. Patel was sitting still. His hands were on the table. His face was devoid of the controlled expression he had maintained for 3 hours. Schiff finished reading. Director Patel, he said, the information contained in this document directly contradicts the statement you previously made to this committee. He paused. Can you explain this contradiction? A long silence. Patel replied. Senator, the functioning of internal processes can sometimes be open to multiple interpretations. Documents should be evaluated in their entirety. In its entirety, said Schiff. Okay, then let's look at these 3 documents as a whole. He placed the 3 documents side by side. The first one shows that the process has been initiated. Secondly, it shows that the directorate's approval has been obtained. Thirdly, it shows that the process is complete and its scope. He looked at Patel. These 3 documents, taken together, form a single picture. And that table contradicts the statement previously given to this committee. Look at the table. It contradicts the statement previously given to this committee. Patel tried to go on the offensive. Senator, these documents cannot be interpreted in isolation. Evaluations made without considering the operational context, the functioning of institutional processes, and the relevant legal framework can be misleading. Schiff shook his head. Operational context, the functioning of corporate processes, legal framework. He repeated each statement separately. Director Patel, each of these statements may be true, but what is on the table right now is none of these. He stopped. What is on the table are 3 official documents, and these documents contradict the testimony given under oath. Is there a simple explanation for this contradiction? Silence. That silence was the most important moment of the morning, because Patel did not respond. His lawyers whispered, passing notes. Patel looked down at the table and waited. Then he spoke. Senator, in order to comprehensively address this matter, it may be necessary for the relevant departments to get involved. Schiff nodded. The relevant units can be activated, he said, but these documents are here right now. And this room is waiting this morning. And this room is waiting this morning. External reactions came within hours. A former federal prosecutor made a brief assessment. Schiff's approach was technically very strong. 3 separate documents, overlapping timelines, and direct contradiction with previous statements. This combination forms the starting point of any legal assessment process.
An academic working in the field of corporate governance focused on a different dimension. What is as important as the existence of the documents is the quality of the responses given to those documents. The answers given this morning did not close the questions. On the contrary, it raised more questions. On the contrary, it raised more questions. At the center of this trial, far beyond daily political debates, lay a much more fundamental question. What happens when the statements given about the functioning of institutional processes contradict the documents? This question is not abstract, because the fundamental mechanism of corporate accountability is precisely based on the answer to this question. And this morning, that mechanism started to operate. As Schiff left the courtroom, he had left behind 3 documents, on the record, in the congressional records, and the contradiction between those documents and the testimony given under oath was also on record. Patel, however, left without the institutional confidence he carried when he entered that morning. He was still the director, but the documents on the desk had revealed a much bigger question that morning. Sometimes accountability doesn't come with big explosions. Sometimes it comes down to just a folder, 3 documents, and the answers to those documents. Schiff did exactly that this morning, and Patel's face, when that folder was opened, told everything. We are following all these developments. Subscribe to our channel, don't miss the next video.